Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be going over my first football game of the season. So we finally hosted a game after 2 weeks away, and I didn't travel to either of the away games. One was up in Michigan, the other one was in Oklahoma, but we've been hosting a lot of volleyball. So keep an eye out for that. I'm going to have a video over 2 weekends of volleyball, and we've had a couple soccer games as well. So I'm going to be covering sports for the next few videos all the way throughout the year. All right, so first off, I was using the two Canon R6s, and on one body, I had the RF 70-200. This is the first model, so it does extend out when you zoom, but I've talked about that lens a lot on this channel. It's my go-to lens for sports, and it's a good starting point if you're trying to get into sports and you can, find a good used 70-200 f2.8. It's going to be good for outdoor and indoor sports. So first camera had the 70-200. On my second camera, I had the lens that I'm shooting this with, and that's the 16mm f2.8. And that's what I shot with during pregame and going into all the way up to halftime. And the reason I wasn't using the 300 yet adapted with the EF to RF adapter is because I needed to have something good in the end zone, but I also needed to have that second body with an ultra wide on, because we have a new feature on the sidelines when we get a turnover, and that's the throne. So when they get a turnover, interception, whatever, they run there, we get a picture, and it's a sponsored thing. So we use it for a sponsored post on our social media at the college. So I wanted to keep the 16mm on because I knew that was going to have a lot of the players, surrounding it. So I needed something ultra wide that I can get in and didn't have to worry about it cropping off or anything like by using the 70-200. So I opted to have the 70-200. That way I can shoot the game and have the 16 when it comes in handy on the sidelines and for that turnover thrown. Now, once I got that first turnover thrown photo, I knew I can switch it up. And so I kept the 70-200 on one and the 300 on the other body and started covering the game per normal, or per usual, I guess you could say, because that's usually my go-to setup when I'm shooting football, is one camera with the 70-200 and one camera with the 300. And the reason I do that is the 70-200 is going to be good in the end zone once they get too close for the 300, but that 300 is going to allow me to shoot while they're in midfield or a little further as they're coming my way. So I could start with the 300 if they're midfield, and as they get closer, I can go the 70-200, and most of the time zooming out to 70 is going to be perfectly fine if they're coming at me and they get into the end zone for a celebration. Now, I know people are going to be asking for my autofocus settings, and for most of the stuff on game day, I'm going to be using the single point or expand autofocus section or selection. And that is because sometimes it's just easier to have that bigger range. And so this one has a box and then a couple boxes around it. And that allows me to just kind of whip around and follow the play. And almost 98% of the time, it's not missing focus, which is really, really nice. So it kind of is a security blanket. And somebody's probably going to ask, why not use the face detect? I find that face detect at further away subjects likes to hunt a little more, or it jumps around too much. And I just want to make sure it's on the player that I am focusing on. Also, sometimes when they wear these helmets, the white helmets, which we had a whiteout game, so all whites, I find that sometimes the autofocus can't snap onto the helmet enough. I don't know if it's a contrast thing or a highlight thing, but with that said, that's why I went with the autofocus selections that I was using for this game. And those are typically what I'm using almost every game. And if I find one that's not working the greatest, I'll switch it up, or I'll try to figure out a better angle in case maybe the sun's coming in or it's just bad lighting for the autofocus. But for the most part, I have no issues using those two autofocus settings. Now, there are times where I use the face auto detect, and that's when I'm shooting ultra wide stuff with the 16. It comes in really handy if I want to make sure I'm reaching up over the huddle and shooting down, and I want to make sure it gets the person in the middle. I could put that box right on the middle, and it's going to probably face detect right on the person that's in the middle, which is usually who's like hyping up the team and stuff before the game or at halftime or whatever it may be. Now for some other settings, I am using the high speed burst mode on both cameras on this, so I'm constantly bursting and getting a bunch of images. I shot so many images the past weekend between soccer in the morning, well, mid-afternoon to the 4 o'clock football game. I think I shot close to 8,000 images, and that was a lot to go through. But with football, I was overshooting. It's the first home game. I know I'm going to need photos of players when it comes up to the end of the season for senior day and stuff. We usually give them a print from their time on the team. So I needed to make sure I just get a photo of every single person that comes onto the field or is warming up. So I overshot and over delivered to the school how many images I usually give. And it comes in handy just having a nice bulk folder of images that they can use for graphics. Overall, I feel like I had a pretty solid game. Usually the first game back in all sports, it feels a little iffy. I feel like I'm kind of out of sorts, not sure what I want to shoot. So overall, I feel like I shot a pretty good game. I got some great action shots, got some good stock images that they can use for graphics or just social post, and just some good images that I feel like I haven't gotten before, where I tried different angles. And I really tried to move around a lot. I tried not to sit too much in one spot. I tried to keep my angles fresh and just kind of work the field as much as possible. So with that said, that is it for today. I just wanted to show you some of the images that I got that I delivered to the school from my first football game back for the season. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram. That's where I post most of my images, usually the day of or the day after a sporting event. So it's thoroughly updated throughout the week as we are very busy now that we've started sports, and that is at Gorilla Photog. And with that said, if you have any questions, put them down in the comments below. I'd appreciate it if you like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.